US Residential is a publicly listed property investment vehicle which is stapled. It's a company and a trust, a REIT, stapled together. So when an investor invests in US Residential, they get a unit in the company and the trust. That provides for an efficient flow of income streaming back to investors. US Residential as a business invests in rental accommodation in the United States. What US Residential allows you to do is to invest through the Australian Stock Exchange into assets that are in the United States and therefore are not as closely correlated to our economy as you'd find if you invested here just in Australian-only assets. What we're seeing in the United States versus what we're seeing in Australia is higher property yields from residential property. Okay, so where in Australia landlords are receiving yields of 2, possibly 3% generally in the metropolitan areas in Australia. In the United States, we're seeing yields that are considerably higher, net yields of around about 7 to 7.5%. And what we're also seeing is a lot stronger rental growth in the US. At the moment, rental growth across the United States is around about 6%. There's about 300 to 340 million Americans. About 70 million of those people are renters in single-family houses or in multifamily apartments. There is a shortage of residential accommodation in the right sort of markets in the United States, and the most efficient way to invest into that rental market is to buy multifamily residential apartment complexes. Properties built singly for the purposes of rent, and they are on one title. They are commercial property in the same way that the shopping centre is or the office is. We look specifically at the A grade market, and we look at B grade assets. Our management team is based here in Melbourne in Australia and in Dallas in the United States. We've syndicated and run property portfolios in excess of billions of dollars around the world collectively. So we've got on the ground management that's got the contacts and the experience in the US market, and we have a very strong understanding of what investors want here in Australia. So we're seeking to raise $14 million in this capital raise, and we will take that $14 million and predominantly invest that in residential multifamily apartment complexes in the United States, the most secure commercial property asset classes on the planet. We will then syndicate those assets to the marketplace and generate additional funds management fees from that activity. What that will do is it will generate a yield to investors of 10%. Purchase back the management rights. The fund is currently externally managed. We want to internalise that and reduce the leakage of funds management fees over time. So that'll make the fund structure more efficient, and in effect we will build as a function of this capital raise a funds management business that holds hard assets. At the conclusion of this process, we will apply the $14 million raised to acquiring the Patriot Point asset at North Carolina. Investors who take up the placement or the rights issue will receive a staple security in US Residential. We forecast that the fund will pay 6 cents per annum. So based on the offer price, investors will be returning a 10% yield. It's a matter of the public record that about $680 million was raised for property syndication last year in the United States. How do you get involved? The way to do that is there is a placement in the market right now. There will be a rights offer to retail investors. They will trade on the stock exchange, and any shortfall will then be placed to wholesale and retail investors. So if you have an interest in this opportunity, you should contact your broker or call APP Securities.